This is a Kmart production, brought to you by Dudzik Chiropractic and MJB Electric.
Listener's discretion is advised. ZaBills Podcast.
Welcome to ZaBills Podcast. If this is your first time, we discuss the Bills games while we review two different Buffalo pizzas. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the big show.
All right, folks, welcome to another edition of Breakfast with ZaBills. Today I have Sean, as always, with me. Hey, Sean.
How we doing, Kyle?
I'm very good. And today we have a special guest, Brian from Grand Central Bills Backers. Brian, how are you today?
Sean, Kyle, I'm excellent, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, man. It means a lot.
Hey, it sounds like you're doing something right now. What are you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm actually driving from the DC area to New York City.
Oh, are you allowed to discuss what you're doing, where you're going?
Yes, I'm going to the Governor's Ball Music Festival.
Oh, okay. Who's playing?
We were got tickets for tomorrow, so there's like 13 or 14 artists tomorrow, and the Killers are headlining it. So looking forward to seeing that. And my daughter's coming with me. She's 16. It was her birthday present. So Sabrina Carpenter, TV Girl, 21 Savage. It's in Flushing Meadows in Queens, so we're looking forward to that kind of father-daughter music festival kind of thing.
Is your daughter riding shotgun for this podcast?
She is, but that's okay. She's 16. She's heard it all.
Well, she's in the
room and we're yelling and screaming on Sundays, so she's heard all the F-bombs, all the.
Well, no. I was just curious if she wants to chime in at all and ask her some questions if she wants to be a part of it. Or she's just gonna put the earbuds in and just not pay attention to anything.
Yeah, I think that's where she's at now, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I got to follow up from the concert real quick, Brian.
Is this a big thing? Like,
that's exactly what I was going to ask him.
Okay.
Is this an intimate sort of setting, maybe 200, 300, 400 people? Or are we talking arena-sized concert?
It's outside 3-day music festival. It's sold out. Yeah, it's sold out. It's not, it's not Coachella. It's not Lollapalooza, but it's thousands and thousands of people.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the Killers headlining, that's a band. You know, that's not going to be some sort of small alternative punk rock band. That's going to be a good show. It's going to be fantastic. Are you a Killers fan?
Yes and no. The Grand Central is like a top 40 party bar, so we kind of play everything. So I've caught some of their music. Obviously, Mr. Brightside is a huge bar song. But just kind of having teenagers that kind of listen to pop music, and they're on there every now and again. So I wouldn't call myself a huge fan. I would have problems naming more than 3 songs. But I enjoy their music, and being with my daughter for that's gonna be pretty cool.
That is awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sean,
Post Malone's tonight.
Oh,
and SZA is Sunday night. So
wow. This is quite the show.
I know 2 of the 3 headliners he mentioned.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, that tells you something. It's not just a little.
Yeah.
Who did you say was Sunday night's headliner?
SZA.
Yep, don't know that one. Do you know that one, Sean?
You probably heard her music.
I'm sure my kids would.
Familiar.
My kids would educate me. Sean, how many concerts have you taken your children to?
One, like real music concert one.
And it was...
We saw Journey. We saw Journey in Toto when they came to Buffalo. My son insisted on going. That was his birthday gift. And God, I mean, he was great. He loved it. They were great. They sounded great. They were celebrating their 50 years as a band, which I'm like, oh my God, I'm old. But that was a good show. That was a great show in the arena here in Buffalo.
I'm curious.
That's awesome.
Go ahead.
So the first show that I ever took my girls to was the Taylor's 2017? 2018 the Reputation tour, and I was like, oh man, I got to go to this. I'll go for my daughters. And I'm telling you, man, that woman is incredible. I was locked in for 2.5 hours, and it was an unbelievable show.
Wow. I got questions, Brian. My daughter's a Swiftie. How much did the ticket set you back?
Well, this was 2018. I mean, she was big in Reputation, but not nearly.
Yes.
Like the Eras tour is like I can afford it. But back then, I think the tickets were like $225.
That's not
bad. Which is obviously it's expensive, but for Taylor Swift, in 2018, like it was worth it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know. I got a Swiftie, and do I want to take out another mortgage to get tickets to the Toronto show?
No, it's your tuition. It's either a year at SUNY Buffalo, or we're going to Taylor Swift concert.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Your daughter's got great taste in music. You got great taste in music. It's going to be a fun car ride one way or another. Thanks for letting us come aboard and share it with you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for doing this mobile. I know that can be tough sometimes with quality, audio quality. So I appreciate you being patient.
It's going to sound great.
Okay.
Excellent.
So, first question. What did you
Yes.
well, you mentioned pre-recording that this is not your first podcast interview.
Correct.
Okay, so who else have you talked to before?
Not so much Bills folks. Well, we actually, Grand Central was with Sal Capaccio, man, like 09 on his radio show.
Oh.
My manager at the time was from Buffalo. Lives on Lafayette Street.
Okay.
And born and raised out there. Went to City Honors. He's my best friend. We met at Ithaca. He was on with Sal. And then I've done some local podcasts here and there, just about the bar and about sports wagering, which we'll get into.
Yes.
And just about food and beverage in DC.
Okay, so when you got my first original email a couple months ago, you weren't freaked out by anything, and
No, I love doing it. I love talking about. I mean, I could talk about the Bills 24/7. Like I'm a huge fan of it, and then the chance to talk about, the Grand Central and the Bills backers and all that stuff is just. It's awesome. So I appreciate you guys inviting me.
Brian, give us a little background about the Grand Central.
Hold on.
Okay.
I got a question before that.
Okay.
Brian, what are your ties to Buffalo?
So my parents met. My dad went to St. John Fisher. My mom went to Nazareth. They're both from upstate.
Oh, yeah.
Back when they were segregated by gender. So they got married, moved downstate. I was born in Teaneck, New Jersey, outside of Hoboken, but then moved upstate to Rochester, back up to Rochester when I was like 3. Western New York until I was about 9, and then moved to Binghamton. Obviously, my fanhood had already been in place. We went to Bills games, in the 80s and 90s. So I've never lived in Buffalo proper. I've been there 100 times.
Okay.
I've never lived there. But people, especially in DC, people think that I'm from Buffalo proper. Just because we fly the Bills flag and all the reputation of being a Bills bar. But I'm actually not from Buffalo proper.
So you've been a New York State resident, central New York to western New York for most of your life?
Correct. So I moved to D.C. on August 25th of 01.
Okay.
So basically half my life in upstate New York and half my life in D.C.
Okay. Where, not exactly, you don't have the exact street or anything, but like what town were you in Rochester?
14534, Pittsburgh, New York.
Okay. All right. So you were very close to Nazareth and Fisher.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we used to go to, obviously when training camp was at Fredonia, we went, and then when it started going to Fisher, my dad is an alum, and if I brag about my dad a little bit, he's in the Science Hall of Fame there. He was the CEO at Straw Memorial at 32, I think.
Oh, nice.
So he's on the board there at Fisher, and we were able to get some really cool access to the Bills, and it's like a dream come true for me to have them at St. John Fisher.
Yeah.
Now, what year was that when your father was working with St. John Fisher's? Like, what year are we talking about? We're not talking Kelly era, post?
Yeah, he still works at them, but when he was at Strong, it was the 80s, early 80s.
Oh, my. Okay. So transitional time here for the Bills, definitely.
Yeah.
So
it was Smirlis, Ferguson, those guys. Yeah. I'm old.
What is your favorite place to get a garbage plate at?
Oh, man. So I moved out when I was like 9.
Oh, so you're not getting garbage plates at 9?
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I was never out partying in Rochester getting the garbage plate late night. So I honestly don't have an answer to that question.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, sad but true.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
My best friend went to Fisher, and my ex-girlfriend went to Nazareth, so I was out there.
Ah, there you go.
I was out there a little bit. And, Tahoe's, man. Can't beat it.
Well, we tried to replicate the garbage plate at Grand Central because we do a lot of, I'm sure we'll get into it later, we do a lot of upstate food there. But you can't replicate it.
Do you want the recipe?
it's just blasphemous to even try it, you know?
Do you have it? Because a friend of mine has procured the recipe for it. The
really?
sauce.
No,
yes.
I don't have it. I've seen different ones on the internet, and we could never get it done right. And like I said, I'm not going to try it.
I will get it from him, and I will pass it to you. And if you want to try it one day, you can try it. It's pretty. It's pretty damn close. Because we would go over to his house a couple times, and he would make it for us, and it's pretty damn spot on. Shout out to you, Jesse. So
was this sober eating or was this late night eating?
Oh no, dude! I could eat a plate breakfast, morning, night. I could eat those all day. Yeah, it's been a few years, but no, that was like for just a casual family dinner. Go over and eat some plates. Yeah. Okay, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Kick us off. Now that we've got a little bit of...
We got a little background knowledge. All right.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
When did you leave Binghamton? How old were you when you left Binghamton?
I graduated high school, and the next day I moved out. So it was 1993, so I was 18.
And then you went to... Did you go to college in Washington, D.C.?
I went to Ithaca.
Yeah.
Oh, Ithaca.
He makes the move in 2001 to D.C.
Were you at Ithaca when they won the state title?
The national title they won in 88 and 91. And I came 93 to 97.
Oh, okay. One of my high school football coaches was on that 93-ish national team.
Oh, nice. Now I don't want to use the word recruited because that sounds like I was better than I actually was.
Yeah.
But I talked to Coach Butterfield at the time, and he said, come out, we'd love to have you. And this is a true story. My father told me, if you have a 90 average in high school, you can go out for that team. And I ended up with an 88.9. He said, no, sir, you're not playing football.
88.9.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
Tough love.
Yeah, I respect it, though. Looking back on it now, it's probably the right decision for me. I had taken a few shots in my day, and, it's D3 football, which is obviously spectacular and fun to watch, but I think academics probably a little bit more important at that point in my life.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fun in the role parents play in our lives. The gentleman we talked to last week, he couldn't go in the military service because his parents said no. And I heard
that one, the gentleman from Houston.
Yes, yeah. And I was listening back to that story, and I remember going to my parents to ask if I could play high school football. My mom said no. So I did the next logical thing. I just asked my father. He signed off on it, and the way we went, that was how it goes. Ask the other parent, and what? Exactly. Hope they don't talk, and bing, bam, boom. 4 years of football. That's wow, crazy.
Yeah. We call that staff splitting.
Yes, that's awesome. All right, Brian, let's get into it. Your passion for the Buffalo Bills. You've been out of the area for going on almost 25 years. I mean, you're leaving kind of what? I mean, just as the drought's beginning, right? I mean, you're a couple years removed. You've got all the excuse. You're out of the area. Why the Buffalo Bills? Why have you continued to stay loyal to the Buffalo Bills? And then we'll get into the backers bar in a little bit.
Okay. So I have what might be considered an aggressive stance on fanhood. So I believe that your team chooses you. You don't choose your team. That's just kind of how I believe it. So listen, it's America. You're allowed to root for whoever you want to root for. It doesn't mean I need to respect your fanhood. So if you're from upstate New York, a New York Cowboys fan or whatever, I struggle with that. Now, if it's the 70s and that's all who's on TV, maybe, but still, you're 60 miles from Buffalo or whatever it is. I feel like you should be a Bills fan. In Binghamton, you'd be a Syracuse fan. It's very geographical. So I love the Bills from the second I watched them, no matter how good or bad they were. And whether I moved out or moved across the globe, that's who I was going to be with. So I met people with the same kind of mindset in college from Buffalo. So I was like, oh, man, these dudes are from the town that I love and the team that I love. This is awesome. We became fast friends. The Bills were in their Super Bowl run when we met in pre-Frost in 93. So we watched that Super Bowl together, lost that one, of course. Yep. And we became friends, and I just never stopped loving the Bills. Always been in the industry. The first bar that I worked at in DC, Sunday Ticket was just becoming a thing. We had a 19-inch CRT TV. I convinced the owner to get Sunday Ticket, which is crazy expensive. Yes. And I was like, I'm going to pack this place with Bills fans. You have no idea. And he's like, all right, Brian, I'm trusting you. It started off with me and my best friend, who I've mentioned a couple of times. His name is Rashawn Sass, and me and him watching the Bills. And now it's 250 people every Sunday. So,
wow, that's quite a turnout.
Pretty cool. Yeah, but that might be exaggerating. But we've, I'd say, post-COVID is a different story, but pre-COVID, and definitely after the streak was ending, it was 200 people, kind of standing room only, lying out front kind of deal.
How long has your chapter been in business?
We opened April 6th of 2007.
Damn.
So this will be the 18th season. Is that my math is right on that?
At the same place you started at, or is it? Are you changed venues a few times?
It's the same location because I'm the owner of the bar.
Oh shit!
So it's the same venue, which makes us a little bit different. There's actually multiple Bills backers bars in DC, or Bills backers clubs, and we're all friendly. We all support one another. It's all Buff love, and the DC Bills backers is huge. It's like 5,000-6,000 deep.
Is that run by Greg?
Yeah, Greg's awesome.
Right.
Great dude.
All right, I think he's in the lineup coming up to talk to.
Yeah, he does a great job with that group. Ton of fundraising, incredibly organized. They've kind of hopped around from location to location because their original location, McFadden's, had closed down, and then COVID happened, and they've kind of bounced around. But because I'm the owner of Grand Central, it's more organic. We don't have a huge online presence. It's just the same cats, every week who come in, tell their buddies. We fly a flag out front. So it's, in my opinion, a little bit organic feel, and just feels like home. And that's the best compliment that I get from people.
I think you're the first chapter president that we've had on the phone call so far that is actually the owner of the venue for the backers group.
There you
so
go.
Far.
It's cool, man. If you're gonna make the movie, you might as well own the theater. So
well said, my friend.
That's a good one. I got to follow up with this, Brian, because this is a burning question I have. You're talking about all these Bills backers, all these fans that reside in the Washington D.C. area. I got to ask: are they transplants? Are they just hey, they see Josh Allen, they jump on the bandwagon? The Bills are, were the hot team in the NFL. Where are all these people coming from?
I think it's a lot of transplants. There's a lot of people from Western New York in DC, like without question. Since the drought ended and we've had 17 and it's been a little different. And obviously Diggs went to the University of Maryland. He's from the DC area. But there's just a lot of cats, man, from upstate New York who come to the bar and they want their Logan Berry. They want Blue Light, Jenny Jerry Cream Ale, Beef on Weck, like we do Speedies from Binghamton. So there's just a lot of people from the area. And before we were good, we were packed. When we had 16 1 o'clock games, we were packed because it was the only place to watch it. Being good has actually kind of hurt attendance because you can watch the game at home. And you have 6 primetime games. Wow. It's kind of hard to stay up till midnight.
Yeah.
You never thought about that.
It's hard for us to stay up and watch.
Yeah, but for you guys, because obviously we get full access since the NFL lifted the blackout rules. We get it every week. But for you guys that are in different parts of the nation, it's not guaranteed for you. But yes, if it's prime time, I could see that. I could see how you could lose certain people because they're just going to watch it at home. That's really right. I never thought of that.
Yeah. It comes down to choice. So when you have 16 1 o'clock games and you're not nationally broadcast,
right,
you have to get up Sunday morning a little bit hungover, get your stuff together, and make it down to Grand Central to watch the game. When you're on national TV or you're the game of the week, you're rolling to bed and click your remote.
Yeah,
and the game's on.
Yep.
So that definitely affects us.
Interesting.
Okay, so we've heard Blue Light, Jenny, Beef on Weck. I didn't hear Speedies. Is a state fair Speedies, yeah. What are you guys doing? Chicken wings and trying to replicate Buffalo pizza?
No pizza. We do wings, and we outsell wings probably 10-1. Anything else on the menu? Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but there's multiple people who have said they're the best wings in DC. I'd put our wings up against anybody. They're big. The sauce is amazing. They're hot, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So, I didn't do ranch for like 10 years. I refused to do it.
Okay.
And then people were like, you gotta, as a businessman, you might want to put that aside, man. Give the people what they want. I was like, all right. So I offered ranch with it. But our wings are pretty spectacular in my opinion.
So what do you think the ratio for blue cheese to ranch is?
If you subtract out football season,
it's ranch.
If you can do that, it's probably 2-1 blue cheese. But if you add in football season, it's 50-1 blue cheese.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so that many people during the Bills season will come there, get wings, and have ranch.
No, 50-1 blue cheese.
So yeah,
more people. Sorry. Okay, I thought never mind. Sorry.
For every one ranch, there's 50
okay.
blue cheese.
All right. What blue cheese are you using down there?
Ken's.
Okay.
That's good.
Believe it or not,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Pretty basic, but people love it.
And you're getting the Kimmelweck rolls?
Oh, I get them from Wegmans, man. I go over to Wegmans because
that's right. You have one down there.
One bakery that makes them in town, and they stopped making them about 5 years ago. So I go over to Wegmans. Actually, I call in the order now, and I just say, hey, can I get 6 dozen or whatever I need? They make them for me in less than 24 hours, and I pick them up and drive them down to the store.
Oh, dude, nice, very nice. How far away for you from that Wegmans?
It's on the way for me. I live in Annapolis, Maryland, which is about an hour to DC, and it's on the way. So it's about a half hour. Not too bad.
An hour, dang.
It's a commute, yeah.
Wow. And is that that's obviously because of traffic, right?
Yeah, without traffic, it's probably 40 and change. I moved pretty far out. There was a direct correlation to the number of kids I had and how farther I got from DC.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Because I heard traffic in DC can be atrocious.
It took me 2 hours to get home yesterday.
Oh, man.
Oh, my wife wants to come down there and visit sometime, too. That traffic scares me.
It's brutal. You can't travel between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to write that down somewhere. Plan accordingly around those time frames.
Now, did I get this straight? You're the Grand Central Bar. This is just north of the White House. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So it's about, it's the city, right? So a half mile is a long way. We're on 18th Street Northwest.
Okay. So so you're kind of in the middle of it. You're not on the outskirts of DC. You're right there.
Yeah, we're in Northwest, where most of where Georgetown is.
Yes.
The White House, the Capitol building's farther away, but the Northwest quadrant is kind of where a lot of the bars and clubs and restaurants are.
DC, we came a couple years ago. We came right at the tail end of COVID, took a family trip. My wife and I were both history teachers, so it's I don't want to say our second home, but we love to visit DC. It's unlike any other city, though. What makes DC different than obviously Buffalo, but obviously like other places like Nashville, like Sacramento? We've talked to people from Calgary. Like what makes DC stand apart compared to other cities in America?
It's a great question. A lot of things come to my mind. Very first is architectural and the laws of the height of the building. So nothing's allowed to be taller than the Capitol building. So there's not skyscrapers. So the skyline is open and clear. So when you get on a rooftop deck, you can see the whole city. There's no skyscraper blocking you. There's no huge apartment building. You can see everything, which is super dope. And Adams Morgan, where the bar is, it's kind of on a hill. So if you get on a rooftop at Adams Morgan, my neighborhood where the bar is, you can see it all, man. You can see the Capitol. You can see the mall. You can see everything. So that part of it's really cool. As far as the people, there's not a huge local population. Yes, of course, there's people from DC, born and raised, but there's just a lot of people there for their careers. So it's a very weekend warrior town. So on a Tuesday night in New York City, you don't find a bar that's just packed, right? Like in DC, there's not a lot going on Sunday through Wednesday. But on the weekend, these cats get loose. Like,
really?
We do about 88% of our sales at the bar Friday and Saturday from 10 p.m. to close, not counting football season.
Wow, that's remarkable.
How late do you stay open?
2 a.m. Thursday, 3 a.m. Friday, Saturday.
Ooh, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, we're too old for that.
Yeah, me either.
I know when we go to visit DC, I know where I'm stopping.
You got to try the wings.
Yes.
I mean, he sold me just on the wings. We got to get there to DC. Keep going with Grand Central. What else does tell us about Grand Central. How long have you owned it for?
Yep. So
why is it called Grand Central too?
I worked at a bar down the street. All right. Grand Central's 2447 18th Street. I worked at a bar down the block at 2333.
Okay.
And the building at 2447 actually caught fire, and the owner wanted to sell it. And I was lucky enough to buy it. We rebuilt the inside, gave it that train station look. And my business partner said to me, "What should we call this place?" And I said, "I don't know. We kind of went." And he's like, "What about Grand Central?" He's from Manhattan. And I said, "I don't know, man. Like, people in DC have an inferiority complex to New York. Like, to New York City. They don't really want to embrace anything New York. I don't know if Grand Central is going to work." And he's like, "Oh man, I really like it. Because we worked together at the bar down the street, and I always used to say to him, "Man, it's busy as Grand Central in here." So that's why he wanted to use that name. So I sent that to my graphic designer. I said, "We want to call it Grand Central." He sent it back. And I don't know if you guys have seen the logo online, but the D in Grand Central is interlocked with the C from the D from Grand is interlocked to the C from Central. So it looks like Grand Central DC when you look at it. Kind of like DC shoes a little bit.
Yep, we're looking at it right now.
Yes,
yeah. So
it definitely has the logo.
Yes. So my graphic designer sent me that back. I said, "Oh, I'm in." So that's how the name became that. And then we kind of did a train station theme on the inside. Looks a little bit like Grand Central. Looks a little bit like a metro in DC. We have drywall with mirrors on one side, which gives the image of the illusion of a tunnel. We have 4,000 square feet, 3 bars, kind of a top 40 party bar. Great tavern food. Obviously, we're a Buffalo Bills bar on Sundays. Some people call it a sports bar. The people who come in on Sunday, but the people who call it Friday and Saturday night. We do social sports, like post-drinking place for kickball and dodgeball and bocce and soccer and all that kind of thing. It's just a place for people to come. I'm very blue collar being from upstate. It's very unpretentious. And it's just a place for people to come and have fun, reasonable, and just come there and cut loose and have a good.
Brian, we're looking at some of the photos, and the interior looks gorgeous. It looks like, it looks fantastic. About how many people can you hold at one time? What does the fire marshal say? What's the max capacity you can have?
I'm glad you added that caveat at the end. 214, sir, would be the legal answer to that question.
Good answer. I like that. This guy knows his stuff, too. He knows. He's like, I got that down pat. That is remarkable.
How did you guys get your T-shirt on PTI?
Another funny story. So one of my regulars knew like a PA at PTI, and she was allowed to bring 3 guests along as the owner of the bar. She was like, "I'm bringing my bar with me." So Kornheiser went to Harper College, which is now SUNY Binghamton University. I grew up in Binghamton.
Yes, he did.
So as soon as I told Tony that I'm from Binghamton, he was like, "Oh," because he's known to be like kind of ornery.
Yes.
But as soon as I told him I was from Binghamton, he was like, "Oh, let me show you my dressing room." He brought me in there, and he had some cool like Bearcat stuff and Harper College images. He just kind of vibed off that. And then I became really cool with that PA, who's an amazing person. And over time, I've become a friend of the show. I've been there a few times. Bill Simmons there when he hosted. Kind of a sad story. One of my bartenders who passed away of cancer, one of his kind of last wishes was to go to the show. So we went to the show with him about a month before he passed. That was really awesome of them. And then I got them a turkey. They do the turkey thing on Thanksgiving?
Yes.
You ever seen that?
Yes.
So I get there. The supplier for their turkey kind of like disappeared. So she called me, the PA, and asked me if I could get one from the bar. I got them like a 20-pound turkey on like a day's notice. So she was like, give me the shirt, I'll put it on the Statue of Liberty. I was like, that's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
That is awesome. Michael, have you interacted with Michael Wilbon?
Yeah, he came to the grand opening of the sportsbook. We kind of privately toured him, and he was really cool. He's a Chicago guy. I have a cool story I told him about Walter Payton that he really enjoyed, and he was like, "This is a feature, man." He's like, as far as the sportsbook and bars and restaurants, he's like, "This is incredible." So everyone at PTI is gracious and humble and super awesome, and I'm really glad to be a friend of that show.
You mentioned sportsbook. Let's segue into that. Explain start to finish about that. I don't know nothing about gambling.
Yeah. So 2018, Washington, D.C. Council passed the legalization of sports wagering in the district. Included in that legislation was the introduction of a Class B license for small business. They didn't want the big boys to come in and just run the town and send all the money to Vegas. So they created an option for small guys like me to get into the field. COVID happened. I really had nothing else to do because the bar was closed. So I kind of put my energy into acquiring the sportsbook license. We were granted the first ever in the country, the first independent sports wagering license. Our license number ends in 0001.
Nice. Was that a daunting process to go through?
It was. It was a lot of document acquisition, a lot of financial acquisition, which is tough during COVID. Whether you call it luckily or unluckily, I had just gone through divorce, so I had a lot of that financial information on hand. So I was able to just copy and paste that folder into the application. And they did a lot of due diligence. It was, I'm not speaking out of school here or talking about money for any reason, but it's a $100,000 non-refundable application fee. So that was a big lift.
That's an investment right there.
Non-refundable.
Non-refundable.
That sounds like what a gambling agency would say.
That's a gamble. That is right? A gamble.
Yeah, that's what I'd say in interviews. I had to gamble to gamble. Yep.
I got to ask, how did you know it was going to pay off? You know, I mean,
I didn't. I still kind of don't, right? Like, I have a saying that pioneers get the arrows and settlers get the land. And we are pioneers in this. We're the first in the country. And we definitely caught some arrows. Like we talked about pre-show, we recently moved the sports wagering operations across the street into a different building because the sports wagering crowd is different from a top 40 party crowd. And the space isn't big enough to kind of hold both audiences. Both are awesome groups of people, but both have different interests.
Right.
So the only way to make them, the Venn diagram intersection of betting and partying is not as big as you would think it is. So we had to separate the two, and hopefully both businesses will be successful independently because they cannibalize one another when they're in the same building.
Right. It's hard to accommodate both, especially if they've got different interests. So yeah, I could see how you have to split them up.
Okay, so explain to me how, because like FanDuels and Sports Kings and all that, that's been around for a while, right?
Yep.
So how is this different than that?
So that is mobile betting, right? Like on your phone.
Yep.
So we are retail, which means there are kiosks in the building, and there is a old school ticket teller, ticket window, and it's cash only, anonymous betting. So you don't sign up. You don't put your name anywhere. You don't put your ACH anywhere. You roll up. You can go to the window and say, I would like $100 on the Bills today. The Bills win. You go and give them your winning ticket. They give you the money. You roll out.
So it's like OTB, except not just horses.
Exactly. So thank you for being from New York. You understand. I use the OTB reference all the time, and people look at me like I have 7 heads.
Okay.
So yeah, it's exactly like an OTB. But for sports wagering.
And you are the first to host this for all sports.
Correct. Yep, the first Class B. So there's like the Class A. So Caesars is at where the Wizards and the Caps play. MGM is at Nationals Park. And then FanDuel is at Audi Field where the DC United soccer team plays. So they have to be attached to a stadium. As a Class B, I can be in any business I want.
Right. So that's why you're doing the Grand Central, the bar. You could, it makes sense.
Like you could go into Apollo's Donuts and set up shop there.
You could set up a sticker shop or a pencil shop or a Jiffy Lube and do it.
But for this to work with your $100,000 investment, you've got to have people coming and you got to be able to accommodate the masses. You can't just have some small little Dunkin' Donuts, and because you might not get enough traction that people aren't going to bet, and then so it makes sense for you to be in a bar, restaurant type venue where people are coming and going. Plus, that's going to draw people to your restaurant, bar situation. So they kind of could work together. The crowds may not mesh, but those two interests can kind of coexist.
Well, that was the original thought. Exactly. That's what most people would think. But they kind of cannibalized one another because we weren't necessarily a huge sports bar from the jump. We were a party bar. So if we had been a sports bar from the beginning, it might have worked better.
Like a Buffalo Wild Wings sort of setup.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
Okay, another gambling question. Like, as I said, I don't gamble. I don't know anything. Does the house still win if you lose?
If you lose, as in the Bills? Or
No. So say Sean comes in, makes a bet on the Bills. He wins on his bet. Are you still making some money off of that?
No, you just lose less.
Lose less.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the perfect situation for a sports book is even money on both sides, and you take the VIG, which is usually about 10%. Right? So the best way I explain it to people is me and you on the street, heads or tails, dollar. You call heads, it's heads, you take the dollar, right?
Yep.
Well, in sports wagering, heads or tails, bet $1, you get back $1.90.
Because you're taking the risk.
$2 back.
Because you're taking the risk. That's kind of what the payoff is.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Cost of doing business.
Okay. This is eye-opening to me. I don't know any of this stuff.
Yes. Back in the day, my family, when gambling was kind of like a major sin still, where you could only do it in Vegas and Atlantic City, they would dip their toes in it. Now it's unbelievable what you can do just with your cell phone. But again, 25, 30 years ago, it was all cloak and dagger, quiet, bookies. It was unbelievable. But now it's just wide open in terms of what you can do.
Well, it's very similar to the marijuana industry. It's where sports wagering is where marijuana was 5 years ago.
Okay. So, yeah, that's a good analogy. We're still screwing around with the marijuana here in Buffalo, but I understand that analogy because it's taken a long time for that industry to kind of take off here in terms of trying to be like, one in every town or one in every 4 blocks. Yeah, I could see that. In New York, I know you've been in DC for a while, but really, FanDuel, these sort of online wagerings, this just is relatively new for New York State.
Yeah, the last couple of years.
I want to say it was finally opened up, and maybe just around COVID when COVID hit. I remember because people listen to this. I'm a Bruins fan, NHL for a second, but I always have to watch the Bruins feed. So or other places, other cities where they're playing. So I'm always seeing these commercials on their feed for all these online betting. And we never had that here in New York State until recently. So it's still relatively new for us that this has just blown up where it's been going around the country for like the last decade, 15 years.
Yeah, and you think my $100,000 is bad. You know how much the application fee, and you can look this up if you're in front of a computer. I was told that the application fee for FanDuel for New York State was $25 million and a 50% tax rate.
Wow.
50.
God.
They did $1 billion in the first 6 months.
I believe it. I do believe it. Yeah. It becomes so profitable. It's hard to turn away, regardless of what you feel. It's hard to turn down that money. I got to ask you, craziest bet you've ever seen while you've run the gambling portion of your restaurant? Like what Or is it just kind of straight up, we're betting this, betting that?
Two stories to that. One, so we can turn down action if we want, just like you have the right to refuse service, right? We get so sorry we can't take that wager.
Okay.
I had someone come in and try to bet $90,000 on a certain college basketball game, and I guess I said I appreciate it, but I can't take that. And that was like the most money I've ever seen in my life, the most cash I've ever seen. As far as
that person had it on him, I guess he would have to, right?
Yeah.
He's not running a check. Wow.
It was he had it in a backpack. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep. And then the craziest bet, like, it's basically a lot of folks like to bet parlays. Parlays are, multiple bets they all have to hit in order for you to win.
Yes.
And so guys have hit 13 leg parlays, which statistically speaking is like a lottery ticket, and turned $2 into like $5,000. And that's called the jackpot. You have to fill out tax information on that. But that's just it's completely luck. 13 legs. That's pretty crazy.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, tell us a little bit about the restaurant. Let's loop back to the restaurant for just 2 seconds. I'm coming down. You've already talked about the wings. Grand Central. I show up. Give me your top drink. Give me your top dish beyond the wings that I should try if I'm down there at the Grand Central.
So are you coming in for a game, or you're just coming in on a random
hit me. I'm coming in on a random day.
Yeah. Coming on a random day, burgers are probably amazing. If you're not going to have wings, our burgers are amazing. We have pretty standard bar fare. It's just consistent at a good price, and it will get the job done. And believe it or not, we do Jello shots, and we sell probably between 3,000 and 4,000 of them a weekend. So that's probably the go-to, believe it or not. We do $5 lemon drops, $5 fireball. But if you're asking me, like, what am I going to get? Like, you're 40 years old like I am. There's a local brewery in town called DC Brow, and it's the first brewery in DC in like 200 years. And they have an APA, an American Pale Ale, which is amazing. So that's kind of the go-to for me.
You said Jello shots. I believe in New York State you can't serve those anymore.
I believe that.
Because something about how we have to be able to witness you making the drink and or opening the bottle in front of you or something.
Really?
Yeah, I thought they outlawed Jello shots, Sean. Is that familiar to you?
I'm not bar hopping like I was 20 years ago, but it sounds like something New York State would do.
You know what? Maybe one of the listeners can chime in on.
I'm going to fact check it right now while we're there.
Okay.
I have a random question that'll eat at me if I don't bring this up, Brian. It may not be a big deal, but I'm going to loop it back to football for a second. Kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but you guys in DC were considering moving the stadium to Northern Virginia. Is that correct?
That was for the basketball. That was for Monumental Sports, which was the Caps and the Wizards.
Yes, that was okay. I understand that. I did realize that, but for whatever reason, the Bills podcast crossed me up. We're used to that because the Giants and the Jets forever played in New Jersey. And I thought that made sense. You talked about it earlier. DC is kind of a cluster. It's very busy. There's lots of moving parts. And I've been to the arena, and it's right in the heart of DC. It's right there. Why was there such a huge pushback for? Because Northern Virginia is right there. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. Why all of a sudden were people protesting the fact that it was just going to move across the Potomac?
So there is a lot of scar tissue from when the Commanders, then the Redskins, if I may, moved from DC to Maryland.
Okay.
That ripped the hearts out of local Commanders, then Redskins fans. And there's a lot of scar tissue there. And then they're told that, 20 years later, 30 years later, that now you're going to take the Wizards out of D.C. and move them to Virginia. Yeah. Like they revolted with pitchforks and lanterns before they had a chance to move, because I think a lot of that scar tissue from the Commanders leaving and going to Maryland. Now, with new ownership in the Commanders, I'm hoping, even as someone who loves D.C., that they bring that franchise back to the district. I think that's what the district needs right now. I think they're struggling post-COVID, and it would be huge for that franchise to move back to the district.
Let's get back to it. Go ahead, Kyle.
I have one more question before were you going to segue into football, Sean?
I was.
All right, I got one more question about the gambling thing. When you said that you had to turn that guy away with $90,000, you obviously have to have a substantial amount of money on hand at all times to cover all these bets, right, if they hit?
It does not have to be on hand. You just have to have it available within 24 hours or via check, just for the safety purposes of what you're alluding to is having that much money on hand.
Damn.
But I took it, what you were saying was this dude's got $90,000 on a very unique game that most people aren't even watching. He's got to know something.
That, and this was in the very infancy of the sports book. And even to this day, we are 3 years old as a sports book. We're not in our fifth generation like the big boys.
Right.
$90,000 is a large number, and I just don't feel comfortable taking that kind of wager because I don't have the financial backing at this moment in time. That would like bankrupt the book.
Right.
Because we're so young.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's transition to the Buffalo Bills. I think this is one of the podcasts where they've kind of taken a back seat. Washington D.C. is a hopping place. Grand Central. Make sure if you're in D.C. you're checking that out. The Buffalo Bills. They were when they do travel to D.C., which is not frequent, but are you able to check the games out when they play the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, they played them last season,
yep.
And I could text you guys some video. I just kept chanting home game. I mean, it was. Now my Commanders fans are getting mad at me, but it was 80-20 Bills fans.
Wow.
Like when you walked from the parking lot to the stadium, that's all it was. I mean, no disrespect, but it's a crappy venue. FedEx Field is a crappy venue,
yeah.
And we took it over. Like, of course, I got there early, and we're tailgating, with Greg and having fun with the DC Bills backers. But you couldn't find a Commanders fan. You just couldn't.
Wow.
And it was all Bills fans. It was amazing. It was a home game.
Now, Sean, for us in Buffalo, is Washington D.C. closer than New York City?
No. That's a really good question. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, definitely.
So
Washington,
that would be your closest NFC football field.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that one.
And then you have
I think Detroit might be a little closer if you're talking NFL or NFC.
If you went through Canada, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't. I will fact.
But
check
anyways,
that
other
too.
than that, you got Cleveland, Pittsburgh,
right,
Washington D.C.
Right. Well, Philadelphia. Actually, Philadelphia is closer. Now I'm going to look. Okay. Now I'm turning in geography B to answer Kyle's question.
But I'm just saying, how many? Okay, so everyone talks about how Carolina.
Yep.
Is the other Buffalo home field, right? But
right.
But you would think that Washington D.C. is actually closer.
That might be a byproduct of the fact that the Commanders just haven't been good for a while. I mean, they're not. I mean, you know how it is with the Buffalo Sabres. People aren't going there. It's just not. They're the opposite team showing up. I mean,
right.
I think that's the Commanders. I think that's what life is like in the NFL when you have not been competitive for. RG3. I mean, when was the last time the Commanders went in the playoffs?
Playoffs,
right? I mean, so it's I could see that stadium being taken over by especially Bills fans. I want to piggyback off what you said. Tailgate. You know what it's like in Buffalo. Is it I mean, obviously, when Buffalo fans are down there, it's pretty similar. But when typically is DC tailgates kind of a hopping thing, or is it just, hey, you know what, ticket, turnstile, we're just going to the game over?
No, there's definitely a huge tailgate, and that's props to Greg. He does a great job organizing that. It's a huge event. There's DJs, a ton of food, obviously a ton of beer. People are having blast. Obviously it's not Buffalo. Nothing is. As much as you try to replicate it, nothing is Buffalo tailgating. But we travel, as you guys know better than anybody, we travel. And when they come to DC area, it really feels like a home game. Minus Pinto Ron, it feels like a home game.
How many Bills games in Buffalo have you been to?
I couldn't count.
Do you still come to Buffalo for Bills games or no?
Yeah, we tried it. My wife's from outside of Alfred, but her family is from North Tonawanda. So we try to get to one home game and one away game a year minimum.
So the in-laws are from North Tonawanda. The wife is from the Alfred area. What's that, like Olean or?
Almond, I believe she's from.
Okay. Never heard of it, but.
Yeah, one stoplight town kind of thing.
Yeah. I hear you.
Brian, I got to correct Kyle and myself real quick. Okay. Philadelphia is 6 hours, 12 minutes. New York City is 6 hours and 13 minutes, 1 minute difference.
Jeez.
DC is going on 7 hours. That might be the traffic.
All right.
And so actually, I think
they're all
by 1 minute.
Close, right?
They're all really close. I mean, I love Washington compared to the other two. I just, it's the history, it's the environment, it's the monuments, it's a remarkable
You're
place.
a sucker for
I'm a sucker for
structure.
Yes, I am.
For sculpture, sorry.
Yes, it's the one place where you hear sirens. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an emergency. That's what I learned when I was in DC last time. It doesn't mean.
What does it mean?
The motorcade.
It's a motorcade. It could be a top tier senator, or it could be congressman. It could be. We saw the VP car motorcade drive by. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an emergency when you hear sirens in DC.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, hey, I got to ask a history question. What's your favorite monument? What's the one that kind of tugs at your heart a little bit?
Oh, the Vietnam Wall.
Yes.
There's without question. The first time I went, I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and my dad, one of his classmates from Fisher, who's actually, there's now a statue next to the field, he passed away in Vietnam, and I'll never forget, like, it's crystallized in my brain of him taking the charcoal and the paper and tracing his name onto the paper.
Wow.
And it gives me goosebumps now. But yeah, the Vietnam Wall is by far the most meaningful to me, I think.
Do you still walk? I know you don't live in DC anymore, but do you still tour it, or do you just tour it when, hey, we got family in from out of town or guests from out of town? Or is it for like us for Niagara Falls, which is like we go there, it's there, we don't really even think about it much. It's if someone's from out of state, hey, there's Niagara Falls, there's the jet boats. Is DC, does it still have the pull, the sentimental pull, or is it just I'm around it all the time? It's not on my mind.
That's a good question, and I think it's a little bit of the latter. But every now and again, it just punches you in the face. Or like when I used to work till 5 a.m, and I would drive through the town at 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning after work, and it's quiet, and you're driving through the mall area, and you drive past the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument and the World War II Memorial. You're like, holy cow, I live here. Like, this is crazy. And then you drive past Virginia to Arlington, where I used to live, and you drive past the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and then the Pentagon post 9/11, and you're driving past all these things. Because I moved to D.C. 2 weeks before 9/11, and I lived 1.5 miles from the Pentagon when the plane hit, and our house shook when that gas tank exploded. So there's a lot of scar tissue there for me, and a lot of sentimental how I feel about that in D.C. So you do become numb to it, kind of like Niagara Falls, because you're there all the time. But every now and again, life just smacks you in the face of like, you're here, man. You're here where this happens, where this is, and it's pretty cool.
You brought it up very early in the interview, August of 2001, and it dawned on me as soon as you said it, you're a month from 9/11, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go down that road. This is a Bills podcast. But it was
it's a people podcast.
It's a people. You're right. It's a Bills. Yeah, people podcast. But yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to bring that back up to you, but you brought it up yourself, and talk about being there in the moment on the cusp of history, a month shy. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that whole experience, and you're still a relatively young guy at that time too.
Yes, 26. 25, 26.
Yeah.
It was a crazy day. If you want to get into it, I had a job interview that day because I had just moved, and my best friend, who I've talked about so far, Rashawn, he was at work at 14th and G. He literally, it was like a movie. People were running across the 14th next DC to Virginia.
Yes.
Was still in the air. They didn't know it was headed for the Capitol, it was headed for the White House. So people were just like, the cell phones didn't work because obviously everyone's trying to get a hold of everybody. And within like 2-3 hours, right outside my window, which I said was like a mile and a half from the Pentagon, there was military vehicles, SAM, surface-to-air missile pods. Like it was crazy. It was crazy.
My wife and I, before we had kids, we went to DC just as a couple before we got into our careers as educators. And I remember it was only a couple of years after 9/11, but you could still see the snipers on top of the White House. Like they weren't subtle. Like you could see the snipers that were stationed on top of the White House, probably 24/7. Now it's probably a bit more hidden, but it was very real. It was 2 years later. It was still an extremely real moment in everyone's mind. It still is today. It definitely still is today. We don't forget. And, thank you for sharing that, because that is, it's unbelievable history. I want to bring it back. Is it okay if I bring it back to the Buffalo Bills, Kyle?
I think we're about time. It's about time for the Bills.
My guy, give us your biggest your 49. Give us your biggest Buffalo Bills moment since you've been a fan. Could be recent.
Oh man, that's tough. It's for me, just where I was in life, and at 16 years old, wide right is engraved in my brain. Being in the Super Bowl for the first time, being so dominant, winning that AFC Championship game 51-3, being overconfident, I think we were 14.5 point favorites. Like I just assumed we would win that game. Right. And Belichick, what he did as defensive coordinator for the Giants that day, rushing 2 sometimes and dropping 9. It's the same thing he did as head coach for the Pats against the Rams, against the greatest show on turf.
Right.
It was it was so that game I think is engraved in my brain as far as fanhood and what it meant to be a tortured Bills fan. And then when I say to people when they say, "Oh, I understand," it's like, no, you don't understand what it's like to be a Bills fan, because like Commanders fans try to say it to me, and I'm like, you have 3 trophies in your case. Granted, 2 of them are strike-shortened seasons, but you still have 3. We have 0, and we invent ways to lose. They name games on how we lose. Music City Miracle, wide right, 13 seconds.
Yes.
Like, we invent ways to lose. So to pick one is tough, but that wide right is probably the one that crystallizes the most. But the 2020 season during COVID, when my business was shut down pretty much, and we went 13-3 and won that division, and everyone's back at the airport, and all the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram feeds, it was just it was awesome. And that's probably one of the positive moments for me that sticks out the most, was winning that first title 4 years ago, the first AFC's title in a long time. So I'd probably say those 2 things are the most memorable to me.
Where's your optimism level for this upcoming Buffalo Bills season? We still have Josh Allen. You've got Cook, who I think is very much capable of taking a step. I think we're going to get Milano back, hopefully knock on wood healthy. They lost some key players. Yep. What's your prediction for the Buffalo Bills for the 24-25 season?
From a macro level, I think it's 10.5 wins is your over under. So I think 10-7 is probably right about on target. Whether we win the division or not, I think is going to come down to the Jets. I don't love the Dolphins, and something about the Jets and A-Rod, I don't know. Something about him scares me for some reason. The Dolphins, I don't know. Speed only gets you so far, and they're so built on speed. Like
right.
I coach football, and at the youth level, speed's great, but everyone's fast in the NFL, and that speed only gets you so far, especially in January. I think the Jets have a solid defense, and they get C+, B- play from Rodgers, and then they'll be tough. But for us, staying healthy, it sounds cliched, but nothing can be more true. If you look at the last few seasons, we have to stay healthy. Defensively, McDermott, I think he's a better defensive coordinator than he is head coach, but I love him. He's gotten us out of the drought. The defense is always going to be good. It seems they can plug and play players. They have nice depth. The secondary scares me a little, but Rapp and Bishop, I guess, is going to be your safeties. Or no, Edwards, right? The kid from KC.
Yeah.
So I think the defense will be okay. A little bit worried about the pass rush. Vaughn needs to step it up a little bit. But I like Bruce and Oliver. They do great. Offensively, line solid. I love Cook. I like the depth of running back. Obviously, wide receiver is the big question. I think you take Diggs targets and you spread them around. Keon Coleman, everyone loves him, but we'll see if he can play. I hope he can. I love Shakir. Obviously, everyone's talking about Kincaid, and we're going the KC route, which is feature the tight end and spread the ball around otherwise. So I think 10-7. And as long as you have 17 back there, man, that dude is unreal. He's unreal. And you can talk about the turnovers and talk about the hero ball, but there has not been a quarterback like that in Buffalo ever. And I love Jim Kelly, love him. But 17 is special, and as long as he's back there, we got a chance.
You answered my question. I was going to follow up with why bet on Buffalo. There's no better answer than what you said about number 17.
He's unbelievable.
I don't think there's any other answer really.
Sean, think back to the Kelly days. Wouldn't you have rather had Josh Allen back then?
Yeah, but it was a different
Jim
game.
Kelly?
That was a different game. That was still
Jim Kelly couldn't run.
I get it, but you had a running back. Like that was still a running back league. Like that wasn't really. Oh yeah, that wasn't really the way the league was set up. You had a guy who could throw. You had a running back who could run. You were set, and we had that. We had Kelly's arm. We had Thurman's legs. We had Lofton and Reed. Pete Metzelaars. I mean, you had those weapons, and for the late 80s, early 90s, that was the model of a football team.
Brian, when you mentioned 13 seconds and you watched that game, were you saying to yourself on that play, Kelsey there, were you like, if we would have had Bill Belichick as our defensive coordinator, drop 9, rush 2, we might have had a play? Because that's my argument. Why would you continue to rush 4 when you couldn't put Mahomes down once the entire game? You think you're going to sack him on the last fucking play of the game? Give me a break.
And I think everyone talks about that Kelsey catch. A lot of people don't talk about the Tyreek play before it. And they say, well, we were dropping back, so we didn't get beat for a touchdown by Tyreek. But you left one of the fastest guys in the league 20 yards of space to run a quick screen, which is exactly what they did, and gave him a chance to gain, 17 yards on that before Kelsey's 20-yard catch? Like, it's just none of it made sense. None of it made sense. From the kickoff, from the miscommunication on the kickoff, whether or not they should have squibbed it, to how they played the last
Brian listens to the podcast.
It haunts me, and it's easy for me to say as a Monday morning quarterback, but man, I think they could have played that better. And that's what I worry about McDermott. He gets tight in those late and tight situations, and that scares me a little bit.
I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. I also agree with you that McDermott is a fantastic defensive coordinator, but I think when it's in a big game and the game's on the line and he's up against a seasoned coach and a Mahomes, he's not going to win. He's not going to win. He just gets outcoached or outsmarts himself, or I just don't get it.
Yeah, and that's when people try to talk to me about Josh Allen. I was like, Josh Allen did not lose any of these games in the playoffs. If you look at his numbers and what he's done in those matchups versus Mahomes, and just as in the playoffs, period, that dude is elite in the playoffs. Yeah. And it's not him losing us those games, throwing a last-second pick six or fumbling or something like that. It's the defense letting us down in big spots. Yeah. And that's the problem.
You know, I guess it's frustrating when Josh Allen, you can tell when he's about to heave it 70 yards downfield and you're like, oh, God, oh, no. You know, it's just like, because it's very exciting watching Bills games now because you get the feeling that with Josh Allen and some of these other guys, like you could score on any given play you want. It's a great feeling, you know?
I think you're going to see, obviously you saw it the last 8 games of last year when Joe Brady took over, a more, if I can say it, like controlled chaos. Yes. I felt like the thing about Josh Allen during COVID, why he made that humongous jump, which is still to me a statistical anomaly, the jump he made in completion percentage. Yeah. This is my theory, right? My armchair quarterback theory on that. The fact that, so Josh Allen, as you guys know, as a rookie and a young quarterback, had that look like a deer in headlights when you knew that, oh man, this is not good, right? And I think a lot of that was juice from 90,000 people screaming, right? He would just get juiced. And I think with no crowd, it slowed the game down for him. There wasn't the 90,000 people screaming, and he was able to kind of slow the game down in his brain and not have that huge adrenaline rush. Yes. And I think that helped him understand the game a little bit more and kind of see what you have today, which is no longer – you see the deer in headlights a little bit sometimes, but he seems to be more in control of his emotions, which you have to be as a quarterback in every spot. And that's what I like about him. And that's how I think he made that leap, was because of the no crowd. That it wasn't the reason, but it's part of the reason that there wasn't that huge crowd screaming and yelling, and that kind of controlled him a little bit. That might be, I don't know if you've heard that before. It might be loopy, but that's my theory.
The team as a whole, but Josh Allen does have moments where he does lose composure. When the defense is getting to him, when the game's getting to him, and you can see it on his face when he gets rattled. There have been fewer of those, and that comes with experience and age. And you're right that those first seasons, maybe even season 2, where he's just gunning the ball over receivers' heads. You're like, what do we have? The transformation he made in year 3 and year 4 was unbelievable. Well, I mean, you went from a nice top prospect to one of the greatest in the current NFL. And I still put him up there. We debate on our normal podcast in season, is Josh a top 3 quarterback? And it's usually universal. I mean, maybe we could debate top 3. He's certainly top 5 in the entire league.
I'm not sure who else you would take, right? Like I always say around the bar talk, if you put Josh Allen on the Chiefs, they would have 5 Super Bowls, right? Like, yeah. I'm not sure if you put Mahomes on the Bills,
0.
If we would have 1.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
0. I think Josh Allen's better than Mahomes, but Mahomes has got a better coach.
Yeah.
100% better coach.
It's a narrative we've been drumming for a bit now.
And organization, I would say.
What would you say? We've talked this.
Okay, hold on. When I just said that out my mouth, Casey has a better organization.
Yeah.
Is this whole Bills deal just because of our owners?
No. I say no, but I'm going to let Brian field that question.
A better organization?
Yeah.
Yeah.
GM, owner.
You think it's ownership?
Man, that's tough.
I mean, we'll talk about hockey for a second. Sabres absolutely suck. That's a dumpster fire over there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think so I met Grand Central hosted twice the Sabres Road Crew event. You guys know what that is?
No, explain to us.
So the Sabres pre-COVID pick a away venue and do a fundraiser event, and then all the alumni and the head coach and they come out. Cool. So we hosted that when Lindy Ruff was there the first time, and Miss Pagula came. And this is before they owned the Bills. And she was amazing and gracious. And I was actually wearing, I don't know, we have a Grand Central Bills logo that probably violates some sort of IP. And she was, never said a word. And she was incredibly kind and gracious. And we all know that she's going through what she's going through. And I think that probably plays a role into the organizational struggles, because she was kind of the face of the organization. And obviously they kept us in Buffalo, right? Like the Bills could be in Toronto for Bon Jovi and Trump. Like
right.
I will never say a bad word about the Pagulas, because they kept that team in Buffalo.
Yeah.
KC and the Hunts have been there for generations.
Right.
So that's probably, if the list of organizationally, they're probably a better organization, but I love the Pagulas, and I love what they've done with the Bills. They broke the streak. McDermott and Bean are, McBean doing pretty well. So I guess if you'd say they're a better organization, probably, but I love the Bills. You
brought up, I think off air, Sal Capaccio, when Pagula officially announced, or the NFL announced that the Pagulas were going to buy the Buffalo Bills, WGR just took phone call after phone call after phone call of grown men crying. Like it was, yeah. You would find yourself kind of like driving, listening to this, and you're like, oh my, you can't help but get a little emotional yourself, because I mean, our kids would never understand this, but there were people that bought season tickets almost as a charity during the drought. And I had a colleague, Eileen, who was a Bills supporter, and she would buy season tickets. And when I asked her, that's terrible. What do you do? She goes, if I don't, they might move. And there was people forget, there was that cloud over the Buffalo Bills forever that, for about a decade, they could just pick up and move. Ownership was unstable. It was uncertain. And when you brought that up about Kim and Terry, it did bring me back to the day it was announced that, you just had fan after fan after fan reacting emotionally. It was a good moment in Buffalo. It was a good moment when we had stability for our team.
There was a lot of people saying, Brian, what are you going to do if the Bills move to Toronto or if the Bills move to wherever? And I said, I don't play a lot of fantasy. Like, I don't know. I can't just become a Commanders fan. Like we talked about earlier, your team kind of picks you. And if my team leaves to go to Toronto, I'm just a man without a country. Like, I guess, like I said, I'll bet and play fantasy. So when they bought the team and I knew, there was just a relief, and I get goosebumps now. Like you said, grown men crying. Like, there was a relief, like, oh, thank God. Having kids and I can pass this down and we're going to be here. And there's just a humongous relief is the best word.
Brian, I got about one more Bills questions. We'll see if we want to pivot real quick. Are you going to the Baltimore game when the Bills come to town?
Yes. Sunday, September 29th, I believe.
Yes. I believe the Buffalo Bills are in
Sunday
Baltimore.
Night. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll be there.
My friends are going.
It sounds like you're going to be carpooling a bunch of people. Is that how many would you say of the Bills backers? Obviously, you shut down, I'm assuming, right? For a game in DC, and then everyone just goes to the game in either Baltimore or DC?
We stay open because, there's some people who just rather watch it at the bar. So we stay open. It's obviously not as busy.
Right.
It's kind of a ghost town, but we stay open. And then Greg, for the DC Bills backers, he puts together I think he does buses and he does the tailgate. We kind of piggyback with him. But it runs deep, man. It runs deep.
You're going to be out late, 8:20 kickoff. So it's going to be about midnight before you roll in. Better put in your plans for a late arrival to the Grand
This guy
Central
sounds like he's a machine. He goes all night.
He's going to see Mr. Brightside. He's going to see the Killers in a little bit. I mean, party animal. You know what they say. I mean, it's a new 30. Being in the mid-40s is a new 30. It's fantastic.
I don't feel 30.
I don't either, but you know what? I want to sound like we're still young at heart.
My mind is.
Yeah. I'm still going to need a nap the following Monday. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Can I ask you a question about that story about the Sabres party that you hosted?
Yes.
Drop some names of players that were there.
Oh man, I knew you were going to say this, and I'm not going to say I'm not a Sabres fan because I am kind of osmosis because the guys come to the bar to watch it.
Yeah.
But if you tell me some classic alumni, I can tell you if they were there or
not. Dave Anderchuk.
Yes.
Wow.
And both announcers were there. That was a big deal.
Rob Ray.
No, he's talking like Jenneret.
Well, yeah, but Rob Ray, he's there too.
Yeah. The Lindy Ruff was there. I have a picture with him.
What year was this?
2014 maybe?
Okay.
2012?
Patty LaFontaine?
I know him, but I don't think he was there. I'll have to look up that. We posted, it might even be on the Facebook page.
Brad May.
We posted a bunch of pictures from that night there. But off air, I can do a quick little Facebook search and tell you who was there.
No, you focus on driving. Yeah, you got to get to that concert.
No, not now. Off
Shit, if I was on a podcast for this long, I would have missed my exits.
I think I did. I don't know where I'm going.
Oh God,
well, that's really cool.
That is awesome. That is very cool.
It was great. It was a very cool event, and we raised a boatload of money.
Oh,
we sold out, and it was very cool. The Sabres organization told me. She pulled me aside, the person who booked it, and was like, "You guys are awesome! Like, we had to stop tickets. We had to stop tickets at $225. We could have sold 500." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Can I ask
that's
you?
Bills. That's Buffalo people.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, can I ask you what charity you guys were sponsoring? Which one you were donating towards for the Sabres function?
It was so long ago. It was over a decade ago.
Right.
I can't remember.
Okay, I didn't know if it was local or if it was like a Buffalo thing.
It was a Buffalo thing. It was through the Sabres.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Oh, that's very cool. That's awesome. And then was that the last time? Because you said you hosted twice.
It was twice. It was like 12 and then 16, I think.
Got it. Wow. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Brian, we've taken up more than we usually take up of our wonderful Bills backers during our interviews. Do you have any questions for us?
That's a good question. I could interview you guys too.
Yeah.
I thought that one of the dopest questions you asked was like, what's
most...
Oh, fine.
Ask him ask him your question.
All right, Tom Brady question?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Here it comes. All right.
Don't make it so complicated.
Okay, I went back and listened to that. I don't think it was complicated. I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to simplify it because I got criticized last week.
Sean.
Yes, sir.
Kiss.
Yes.
Keep it simple.
Stupid.
Keep it simple.
Yes, sir. Okay. Our scenario we've asked a lot of our guests is this scenario because we're a starved fan base. The city of Buffalo, Sabres, Bills, never won a championship. How starved for a championship are we? Here's the scenario. In the first move, the Buffalo Bills trade Josh Allen to X team, the Atlanta Falcons, for 3 first-round draft picks, but nothing that's going to help us this season. So take that. Josh Allen's off the team. The Buffalo Bills, in the next transaction, turn around and sign Tom Brady, 1-year contract, money doesn't matter. Tom Brady that year wins us a Super Bowl. We lose the services of Josh Allen for however long he plays and what he might win for us. Do you take that deal? Or do you ride Josh Allen until the wheels fall off? Ride or die, Josh. Ride or die.
I absolutely, there's not even a hesitation, not for a millisecond. Absolutely not. No way.
No trade.
way.
No, you're not trading Josh Allen.
I'm not taking Tom Brady.
For a guaranteed Super Bowl, you're still saying absolutely not, Josh. I believe in you. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying that I love Josh Allen, but the Tom Brady piece of it makes me literally.
Wow. It's dirty, isn't it, Brian?
As I'm driving down 95, makes me nauseous.
We used to ask the question about if it was worthy of swapping Belichick for
McDermott to guarantee you a Super Bowl.
But it just was so lopsided. Yeah.
I would do that in a second.
Yeah.
What about Tom Brady head coach for McDermott?
Am I guaranteed a Super Bowl?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right.
I've been more of a fan to the point is where I've talked myself into this idea of bringing Tom Brady on as kind of like a quarterback coach, kind of like an associate coach type thing, where he's just kind of sprinkling some of that Tom Brady magic to Josh Allen. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not like it towards the cap.
You'd have to pay him
more
than $37.5 million. Though. That's ridiculous.
I'm just saying. I'm like, I like that idea of having this guy take some heat off of Josh, have him in front of the microphones. The guy is the GOAT. I can't take it away from him. He's proven over time with 2 different franchises, dude can win Super Bowls. You pair his brain with Josh Allen's body, I think you got like an unstoppable beast right there.
Yeah, it's a nice.
He owns a piece of the Raiders, though, right?
Oh, I don't know. I know he was talking about it, right?
Well, he was talking. I mean, the whole
Did
issue
it come up on
with Miami,
right?
Like he was going to be part owner of the Miami Dolphins before the Patriots got wind of it. And it might have been Tampa. I forgot which one. And the Dolphins had to surrender a first-round draft pick.
Oh yeah.
As a result, I don't know if he owns a part of the Raiders.
No, I don't know why. I don't know why that got in my mind somehow. But so the thing about Brady, we're kind of off topic, but did you watch the Dynasty Apple TV documentary?
I did not.
I did not. I have read his book. I've read the TB12. Yeah. I actually read a book on Deflategate, and I'm not really a Tom Brady fan, but he's a different beast. Like that man is he's not normal.
He's focused.
And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way because we like to beat on him, but he
chose football over his family, bro.
He's wired differently, and
it's like Jordan.
Yeah,
it's like Jordan.
Yeah.
Like he does. By the way, my lovely daughter Googled it. Brady's sports ownership portfolio now includes the NFL. Las Vegas Raiders minority stake.
I pulled it up. I pulled it up at the same exact time you did.
Does your daughter want a job?
That was crazy.
Does your daughter want a job on our podcast? Because Sean just got fired for fact checking.
Yes, Yep, that generation's going to beat us with technology every time.
They are quick with the phones.
They were good. I know. I'm
These kids are quick with the phones.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
All right, Brian, do you have any questions for us?
Well, now you kind of piqued my interest in the Brady thing.
Yeah, I know, right?
I got to ask you this.
Go ahead.
About Brady.
Yeah.
He's obviously become more likable since he left the Patriots and since he's retired and seeing kind of the curtain peeled back a little bit.
Yes.
But I know he's a different beast. You've read the books. Do you think that his wins are at all tarnished by cheating?
You know what? I read the book that was kind of like the post report on it, and basically the way. And I really don't think the Patriots spun this. It's not like a pro Brady. It was independent. Quarterbacks did that. Quarterbacks basically had the right to kind of fill the balls how they wanted to. It wasn't Tom Brady. It was any quarterback could make any sort of adjustments to the pressure, to the air in the ball. That was just a fact of life around the 32 franchises. It was.
But did he have the Deflategate's one thing, but does he have plausible deniability with, oh, hey, here's some tape of the signals. Hey, when they do this is coming.
But I don't think a lot of that was coaching. And they were slapped for that. Like when you're videotaping the opponent's practice, like I don't know if it's quite garbage can Houston Astros. We had that conversation, I think, last week, but it's not that far away from that. I mean, I don't know. It's hard not to believe the old saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But when does it tarnish what you do? And the Patriots, for better or worse, have to own some of that legacy. But you know what? People forget that much faster than the 6 trophies they've won. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he just went to Tampa and won another one. So it's kind of like, well, that theory's out the window.
Brian, do you think there's some script in the NFL?
No, I think that's ridiculous.
Okay. Because I could see it like there's got to be a script that the Bills will never win the Super Bowl, right? Because
it feels that way, doesn't it?
That's the nightmare I'm living in right now. Even when they're given the game, it's still like they hand it over.
Yeah, like I was rewatching the Minnesota game, the Justin Jefferson catch.
Yes.
And like that game is unbelievable. Like if you wrote a script like that, Hollywood would be like, no way. No way does Justin Jefferson catch a slant. They call it a touchdown. They reverse it. Cousins gets stopped on 4th down. We get the ball and he fumbles in the end zone. Then it still goes overtime. Like it's crazy how we invent ways to lose.
Right. Wait a minute. Is that the game that Josh went over the top and fumbled it?
That was
he quarterback exchange center. Yeah. Quarterback center exchange. He fumbled on the half-inch line.
Yep.
Is this where what's the game where he slipped on the grass on the goal line and was down or lost it?
Tennessee.
Ugh.
Yeah.
21 maybe. Yeah.
I was at a family function for that Vikings game, and I used several curse words in front of young children I should never have used. I was so not appropriate for that game. Yeah.
Oh, weren't they up big in that game too? The Bills, weren't they up big?
Yeah. But Minnesota was up, and they were a good team. It wasn't like
they were like 8-0 at the time when we played them.
It wasn't like the Detroit where we scraped through, we beat them, but they turned out to be pretty good. They were good at the time, and we had it, and we gagged it away basically in only a way a Buffalo Bills team could do.
Unrelated, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes, yes.
How's your pizza scene in Annapolis?
Annapolis?
That's where you said you live, right?
Yeah. I don't want to poo-poo on where I live, but pizza overall in the DMV, which is District, Maryland, and Virginia, is not even close to on par with home. It's just not. And I'll probably get crucified if anyone hears this from here, but it's not even the same stratosphere. The pizza's just different at home.
What's it similar to?
The pizza down here? Yeah. So they have
chains?
They have late night. They have late night jumbo slice, which is real popular. Like we have a jumbo slice right next to Grand Central, and the pizzas the sizes are like the size of your head. And it's basically for soaking up alcohol, so you're not as hungover. But the actual taste of the pizza, the sauce isn't as good. Obviously, the dough is not as good, whether it's the water, if you believe that theory.
Sure.
Whether temperature at which you cook it.
Yep.
There's no consistency. There is no DC pizza. Like everyone tries to do New York style, whether it's thin crust or, but it's just nothing's the same. And there's no DC label.
Well,
it's not good.
Brian, you are quite the entrepreneur. I don't see why you couldn't bring Buffalo pizza to DC.
Well, bad pizza. Have you guys heard of that? That's blowing up down here. There's So that's pretty good. It's pretty good close to home from what I hear. I've never had it, but a lot of my Buffalo, DC friends say Bad Pizza is the closest you're going to get down this way.
Oh, wait a minute. That's an actual place?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just meant Bad Pizza.
Yeah. No. It's called Bad Pizza, and it's Buffalo style pizza and wings, and it's blowing up down here. And it's my local like upstate New York transplants, Western New York transplants down here love it. It's BADD Pizza.
I'm Googling this right now. Oh, there it is. All right, let's see.
I'm dying to have it.
Deliciously BADD, Buffalo, New York style. So
there you go.
I'm assuming the owner of this place has got Buffalo ties.
Yeah.
I would assume.
I don't know for sure.
Interesting.
Our story.
Interesting stuff.
All right, anyways, I can read this on my own time. Brian, you grew up in Rochester, then you moved to Binghamton, and how do you look at where you are now from back then as a Bills fan to Bills fan now? Like, have you far exceeded what you ever thought that it could be?
Without a doubt. I think back then, growing up a Bills fan, it always seemed like the Bills were, I was kind of just on the outside looking in, and I was a fan, and this is something unattainable to be anywhere near the organization. And over the years, as I've been a loyal fan and as a businessman at Bills Backers Bar and been in the stadium and met Bills players, met Thurman Thomas in London for the Jags game in 2015, and Bruce Smith and Darryl Talley have been to the bar, and Roscoe Parrish and Ken Hall and like these guys who come in, and Cyrus Kwanjo and Ed Wang, guys who, journeymen who came through, to Andy Major, who's director of fan engagement, guys over at St. John Fisher from training camp. It's just, I feel like whether it's fictional or not, I feel a part of the organization now, because, as an official Bills Backers Bar for 17 years and those guys coming through, I feel like a part of it. And I think that's what makes the Buffalo Bills so much different than any other organization, is they can make their fans feel like part of the organization. And Mafia means family to us, and it's all one big family. And I feel like I have a seat at the head of the table of that family, and that's unbelievable. I never would have imagined that growing up. So that's kind of a sporadic answer to your very specific question, but that's how I feel.
Hey, listen, that's a great answer, because my wife, she listens to every podcast. She listens to every interview. And the guy from Orlando, Walter, shout out to Walter if you're listening, he's got X amount of guys in his phone that are all former Bills players or current. And I think as a Bills fan who is a man now, I mentally am still that little boy who was a Bills fan, and these guys are your heroes and idols, and you're like, oh my God, and one day you'd love to meet them, and you're living it, right? You're living it.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of getting into it to maybe make these little fanboy dreams come true, Sean, maybe?
It's a great outlet to express your feelings for a sports team. I've always said the Buffalo Bills it's the identity of the Buffalo area. If the Buffalo Bills ever leave, Buffalo is just another stop on the 90. It's all it is. It's what makes the city of Buffalo around the nation.
Let's be honest. We had Del Reed here.
Awesome.
And we kind of fanboyed out a little bit.
Right.
I used to deliver to the Bills Stadium for the maintenance grounds and stuff like that. I used to deliver diesel fuel and gasoline for their equipment needs and stuff like that. And I remember one year, it was close to Christmas, and I was driving between the stadium and the training center, and LaShawn McCoy was standing in the parking lot talking to somebody.
Right.
Wow.
So I'm driving through in my work truck, and I'm thinking to myself in my head, oh my God, I got to get out and get a signature from this guy. And yet he was talking to like an employee or whatever. So I pull over, I look through my truck real quick to find a piece of paper and a pen. And I walked up to him, nice, slow, and chalant, and they looked at, and I said, excuse me, when I saw my opportunity of in between speaking between the two guys. I said, hey, Mr. McCoy, would I be able to get a signature for my kids for Christmas? And he shook my hand. Dude had the softest hands of a human being I've ever felt in my life. I've got decent sized hands. I wouldn't say they're bear paws, but they're big. His hand was tiny compared to my hand. Couldn't believe it. But, like driving in there, I used to know what time they'd show up for practice. And if I had a delivery that day, I'd always make sure to run my schedule to show up in between the times that they'd be arriving for practice.
For sure, yeah.
And so I met McCoy. And never saw Josh, but I saw Gabe Davis, Ed Oliver. You see all their vehicles they drive. It's, they all park in one area. But, no, to meet like, Thurman Thomas or any of these guys, like, that would be the dream.
Yeah. You get to relive your childhood in essence. Like you get to connect with that.
Listen, I cried for 2 days when Norwood missed that kick.
Oh,
2 days I cried. Fifth grade.
All have
Fifth grade
cried about that one. That one left an imprint.
I bet somebody $50.
Did you pay it?
No.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much.
One last thing, the Four Falls of Buffalo is required watching in my house for the kids.
Oh, but don't you consider that torture though? Oh,
yes,
no.
It was on my DVR for 3 months before I had the courage to watch it.
I was going to say that is, and then I'm not, you know what? It can't ruin it for anyone who's listening to this podcast, but the ending where they replay it and he makes the kick, it's like a series.
I didn't watch it. They
poker.
They do like pick your poison?
At the end, no, it's like as they're cutting. I don't remember if they're all looking over the falls or what. They have, I almost said Father Miller.
What if he made it?
Yes, they actually spliced in, Van Miller. Him almost, his famous call.
Yeah.
But Norwood makes it. And it's kind of the what if version.
Here's a question that we should start asking in the podcast, in these interviews. What would the Bills organization be like today if Norwood made that kick? Like how different would the world be?
I ask that question all the time.
How different would the world be if he made that kick?
I can kind of answer that. I mean, that's not too far out of my realm. My team, I'm a huge Boston Bruin fan.
Oh, God.
My team won a Stanley Cup in 11.
I'm cutting this shit, Sean.
Okay, that's all right. But I can at least approach it kind of logically. They won in 11, okay? That's like the Bills-Giants win. Okay, they won in 11. They lost in 13. That was the Redskins defeat. They lost in 19. That was the Dallas defeat. They should have won last year when they broke records. That was the other Dallas defeat. Those defeats are nothing. They hurt. They stung in the moment. But man, I cling to that 2011 Stanley Cup like it's no one else's business, and I can die a happier man because they won a championship. And that's and I tell people that, like, that's what I want all Bills fans to be able to feel is what I feel, because you feel almost justified to have lived. You feel like you can rest in peace comfortably that your team that you bled for X amount of years won a championship. And I do. I'll cry. I'll cry for you. I'll cry for the Bills Nation, because I cried when my team won a cup. I bawled my eyes out, tears of joy, and just, oh my God.
Is there a video?
No.
Did your wife have video?
No. Those are stories for a different podcast, but that's how Buffalo's going to be. And the difference is the nation's going to cry alongside of us because we've suffered long enough. And I think it's the one franchise in the four major sports where universally they'll just nod their head, tip their cap, and say, well done.
Well, let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers coach the other night who fucking ripped on the Bills. They asked him about playoff Stanley Cup experience. He says, why don't you ask the Buffalo Bills about Super Bowl experience?
Right.
Well, I guess I'm rooting for Panthers now.
I didn't hear that.
Fucking guy. Shots fired, for sure.
I didn't hear that one. That would be Knobloch, too. Ouch. That stings a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I was listening to a hockey podcast today, and Jeremy Roenick was on. So Jeremy Roenick was on, and he wants the Panthers to win because he is really good friends with Keith Tkachuk.
Yes, he is.
And he's known Matthew Tkachuk since the day he was born.
Yes.
So he's rooting for him. And he says, this is your opportunity. You may not ever get one.
Correct.
Again, right? Somebody told that to Jeremy Roenick in 92 or whatever year.
Never got back.
He goes, that was my only chance.
Yep.
So that being said, the Bills were in there 4. They didn't belong in the last 2, I believe. They shouldn't have been there. The way they played, disgusting.
Yeah, the only salvation is outside of the Giants. The other 3 weren't winnable. They had no shot.
If you're really, what's the word I'm going to say? I don't know. If you really want to put blame on the Norwood, just blame George Bush.
Yeah, we bring that up every podcast. I know.
The helicopter theory.
Yeah, the helicopter.
That is the one.
The wind, right?
That is the one thing. I think Norwood gets a little bit of love that he probably deserves, because I know that man took a beating. I mean, the Four Falls documentary is painful to watch.
Imagine the therapy that he's gone through.
But he moved out. Like he moved, I believe, to the Carolinas and left Buffalo behind.
He's in Virginia.
Yes, I knew it was. I knew it was the South, and no one deserves a fate like that, and to have that hang over you forever. Considering our fandom, so like the Bill Buckner type thing, where you go down in history. But yeah, no, it's worthy of watching, the Four Falls, the Buffalo, but man, I can't do it again. It's like watching Deer Hunter again and I watched it one time. I learned, I understood, I saw it. But I can't do it again.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
Brian, I just want to take an opportunity. This was going into a weekend. I know you're going into a concert, but this was just very invigorating to hear the stories, your experience, the DC life. We want to thank you so much for your time, and we wish you and your daughter a safe travel to Queens, to New York City. We hope the music is loud and wonderful, and we wish you a safe travel coming back to sunny Annapolis and in DC. And if we might be in the DC area later this summer. We're not sure if we're going to make it. If we're there, we're going. I'm taking the family to Grand Central.
Please do, man. You guys, super easy to talk to. Awesome host. Had a really, really good time. My daughter was laughing a bunch. She was having a good time too. So you guys are always welcome. We got plenty of room at the house. We got a pool. So come on by and hit the bar up. We'll have some blues and some wings and chit chat about Buffalo's miserable past and bright future. How about that?
How can the ZaBills Nation reach out to you? Are you on Facebook, X, Instagram? I'm talking Grand Central.
All the socials are at Grand Central DC.
Okay.
Write that down, Sean.
Got it.
Make my job easier.
I got you.
Hey, just to let you know and our listeners know, Bad Pizza is 2 guys. One is Joel, and he apparently grew up in Buffalo. And there's another guy, Steven, known as Stevie Bad, is also from Buffalo.
Awesome.
So hopefully you'll have to try it out and send us some pics.
Yeah, I will, definitely. I don't think they've hit Maryland yet. I think they're still in VA. But I will definitely check it out because, like I said, my boys on the Grand Central Bills thread absolutely love it. So I'll check it out and let you guys know.
Brian, they have 4 locations: South Riding, Falls Church, Arlington, McLean, Arlington, and coming soon, Alexandria.
Yep.
Yeah, all Virginia. Virginia, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So, all right. Thank you guys so much for the time, and thanks to all the listeners. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Go Grand Central Bills backers, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
ZaBills Podcast is a presentation of Kmart Productions, sponsored by MJB Electric and Dudza Chiropractic. Thank you for listening, and if you haven't, please follow, rate, review the show. It helps with the algorithm. ZaBills is executively produced by me, Kyle. Executive sound engineering by yours truly, also me. Fundraising, also by Kyle. All artwork executively produced by Avery and Mark Rochon. What the heck is this? All music and lighting executively produced by Kyle. That's more like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Please drive carefully, arrive home safely. Good night.